So far we have discussed the various techniques using which we can find the peak element inside a sorted array, right? Now let's quickly write the Java based implementation for the same. So here whatever the find peak element that we are trying to, problem that we are trying to solve, it is our first searching specific practice problem that we are trying to, solve, right? So inside whatever the searching package that we have created for organizing all our searching algorithms implementations, here let me just create a new package. Let me just name the package as arg codingpal array searching. Here let me just name the folder as practice and let me just finish it. Now inside this practice folder whatever we have created, let me just add a new class called find peak element. Okay, and let me just add the main method as well and let's click on finish. Okay, so here let's write the solution for finding the peak element. Once again, as part of this specific one, I will be explaining you the effective approach, which is nothing but using the binary searching algorithm for finding the peak element. If at all if you want all other approach solutions, you can go to codingpal.org. Specifically, I'll put the problem link in the description box. You can use that link for finding the solutions for remaining approaches that we have discussed in the algorithmic discussion section. Okay, now anyway, to solve this problem using binary search, let me just define one function called public int find peak element using binary search. Okay, what it will do, it will take an integer array of values. So ultimately, after finding the peak element inside the sorted array of values that we have got, we need to return the index, right? Index is nothing but integer, so the return type of the function here is integer. Now as part of the first step, let me just read the length of the array. So array.length. Now to handle the case where the array that we have got is empty, in that case we need to return -1, right? So if at all the length of the array that we have got is 0, we will simply return -1. If that is not the case, that means the array is not empty. We have got certain number of values in the array. Now we need to find the peak element. So here for finding the peak element, we will be applying the binary search, right? So for binary searching, let me just define one variable start, and this will be holding the very first element, which is nothing but index 0. I mean, the start and end whatever we define will hold the indexes of values inside the array, right? So start holds the very first element index, which is nothing but index 0. Similarly, let me just define another variable end. This variable will basically hold the last values index, which is nothing but length of the array -1. Along with that, let me just define another variable middle and initialize it with -1. Now all we do is we will run a loop as long as start is less than end. Here what we will do, we will calculate the middle. Middle is nothing but start plus end divided by 2. Okay, once we have the middle, what we will do, we will simply compare the value at this middle index with the value at the middle plus 1th index. So if at all the value we have at the middle index is less than the middle plus 1th index value, that means we have calculated the middle, we have certain value at middle index and we have another value at middle plus 1th index. If at all the value at middle index is less than middle plus 1th index, that means this is greater. That means the peak element is there on the right side of the middle index. To go ahead and find that peak element, what we will do is we will simply update the start with middle plus 1. Okay, observe here I am updating the start index with middle plus 1 so that this while loop will continue. Again we will calculate the middle and the logic continues further. If at all that is not the case, that means whatever the middle that we have is the greater than or equal to middle plus 1th index, that means it itself could be the peak value, right? Or the peak value could be there on the left side of the array. As a result, I am simply going to update the end with middle itself. Observe here, I have not updated the end with middle -1 because whatever the middle index that we have right now could be the index for the peak element. So to find the peak element, it itself could be the peak element or any value on the left side could be the peak element. So to find that, I have simply updated with middle itself. It is not middle -1. So it is one of the important thing that you need to remember here. Once we are done with executing this while loop, whatever the value we have in this start index will hold the value of index of the peak element. So we will simply return start. Okay, so that is the way of finding the peak values index in a sorted array. Okay, very simple one. Just apply the binary searching algorithm, but don't try to return something inside the while loop. All our aim is to move the start index to the peak element index, so that in the end we can return it. Okay, so that is what it is. Now let's just try to call this function and see if it is working according to all the scenarios that we have. So first, to call this function, we need to create the object of this class, right? So find peak element equal to new find peak element fp dot find peak element using binary search. For this we need to pass integer array, right? So let me just define 1 2 3 4 0 1 2 3. Okay, now here let's just pass array and it will return the index, right? So let's just read that into one variable, and in the end let's just print out the index here. Okay, now if you see here, the input that I have passed is having multiple sorted arrays, which is nothing but what we have got in the problem statement as well. So it has 1 2 3 4 0 1 2 3. So looking at the input, there are two peak elements, right? One is 4 and the other is 3. We can return the index of either of these values. That is absolutely fine as mentioned in the problem statement. So if I run this right now, run as Java application, if you look at the output that we have got is index 3. So if you look at index 3, we have the value 4, which is one of the peak element. Similarly, let's just say I want to remove all other values. I want to have only sorted array, only one sorted array in the input. So in this case also 4 is the peak element, right, which is available at index 3. So if I run this right now, that is what I have got as well. Okay, so it is working even if I pass only one sorted in the only a group of values which are sorted in the array as well. Now if I just try to test one scenario where we have only one value inside the sorted array, since it has only one value, it itself is the peak element, right? So it is available at index 0. So index 0 is what we have got on the console. Similarly, to test the empty array scenario, I have not passed any values. Array is basically empty. So if I run it out right now, the output that I have got is -1. Okay, so it is working perfectly fine, honoring all the scenarios. Now, if you want to test it against more test cases, you can go to codingpal.org. There, we have listed the different scenarios that I might have missed testing out here. If at all, if you want to evaluate your solution against those test cases, go there and use those test cases for evaluating them as well. Okay, anyway, I'll put the problem link for finding the peak element inside the description box. You can go there and you can find out the all other solutions and all other test cases that you can evaluate your program against. Okay, so that's it for finding the peak element inside a sorted array. I'll see you in the next problem.